Hi, welcome to Life Homemade. I'm Nikki and I'm teaching how to pressure can chuck roast today. Chuck roast is my favorite roast to do, but you could do rump roast or round roast. I just think they tend to be more dry. Having shelf-stable roast makes dinner time really easy. We're starting here with trimming the fat off the meat. You're going to want about 2 pounds of meat for every quart that you're going to pressure can. And then we're going to cut them into strips or chunks. All right, come over to your pressure canner and add 2 tablespoons of distilled white vinegar into the canner, and that is going to prevent, it's going to help prevent spots on your jars, like from the minerals in the water when you're pressure canning. You're going to also add 3 quarts of hot water. A note about the distilled white vinegar, if you add too much, you're going to get your rings are going to rust really fast. I made that mistake thinking, oh, it would help the jars be even clearer, but no, it caused a big problem with rust. So just stick to the 2 tablespoons. Inside my pressure canner, there's a little mark that shows where the 3 quarts line is. So yours might have that as well. Just take a look at your instruction manual for your pressure canner. So in the very bottom of your pressure canner, you should have a pressure canner rack. You should never put your jars directly on the bottom of your canner. They will break, and it will be very sad and tragic to lose all that awesome food. I want to show you a couple of really handy tools. This is a jar lifter. It helps you lift the hot jars out, also to put the hot jars in when you happen to have hot liquids in it. Those are about $5 at Walmart. And then also a canning funnel. The canning funnel fits in a regular mouth jar. This is a regular mouth quart jar. And it just makes it super easy to get the food in there. It also fits, of course, into the wide mouth jar. And I actually prefer wide mouth jars because I can get my hand in them and they're easy to clean. But it's harder to find wide mouth lids right now with the pandemic. So I will take regular mouth versus none. So just to show you what it looks like. Now we're filling up our jars with chuck roast, and I'm speeding this up a little. Basically, you just stuff them full, but you need to leave an inch of headspace at the top of each jar for the processing. But if you do not stuff them full, you're going to see that it cooks down a whole lot. Now we're adding a teaspoon of salt per jar, and the recommendation is you can go up to 2 teaspoons of salt per quart, but that's a little too salty for my taste. Also, I might be adding other things to it as well. So now that we have added the meat and the salt, that's it. We're not adding hot water. We're not adding broth or anything. I'm just going to clean these jar rims. You want to make sure that the top is really clean. And I saw this handy tip on another YouTuber's video. Just wipe the rim with distilled white vinegar. That is going to clean off anything, any grease or whatever, to ensure a nice seal. And then put your lids on. You do not have to soak your lids. You don't have to soak your rings or boil them. You can just put them directly on and then tighten the rings. Just fingertip tight. Don't get all Hulk on them. You don't want them to break. And that's going to be sufficient. They're going to go right into the canner, just like that. This is raw pack canning. Just about 2 pounds of meat per jar and a teaspoon of salt. That's for the quart jars. For the pints, it's going to be about half of that. So with your pressure canner lid, you always want to make sure that you can see right through that little hole in the top, that it's not clogged. And make sure your seal is clean and that it's a good fit, that it's not old and starting to crack, so that it can make a nice seal. So check your canner instruction manual to make sure that you know how to work your pressure canner. There's some slight differences in them. This is a dial gauge pressure canner. This is Presto 23 quart. All right, we're turning the burner onto high, and we're going to just wait until there is steam shooting out of the vent pipe. When you have steam shooting out of it, that's when you time it for 10 minutes to let it vent out. And then when that is done, that 10 minutes, we will put the pressure regulator on top, and that is when we will start expect to see the pressure climb when it reaches the ideal pressure for your altitude. Since I'm at sea level, it's supposed to be at 11, but mine actually goes to 15 because my regulator is slightly off and I need to take it in to have them fix it. So now that has vented for 10 minutes, we put the pressure regulator on top. Now it's going to trap in. It's not going to let all that vent out, and it's going to build up pressure, which is what we want. The pressure is what cooks it and seals those jars. You can see it's climbed up to about 7 here, and we're aiming for that 11 for most people that are at sea level. And as soon as it gets to your indicated pressure, that is when you're going to set your timer for 90 minutes for quarts, 75 minutes for pints, and you're going to start to turn down your heat a little bit because that pressure regulator, that little black thing, is going to start to jiggle after it gets to the right pressure. So I turn it down a little bit because I know my stove, it needs to be turned down. And I set my timer, and then I stay close by, and it jiggles about 4 times a minute. Then that's where it's supposed to be. If it's jiggling a lot more than that, it's going to be letting out way too much steam. And if it's jiggling less than that, then it's not keeping the pressure that it should be. All right, now it has been 90 minutes. And at this point, you just turn off the heat and you walk away. Do not touch the pressure canner. Don't pull off that regulator. It's going to slowly, naturally depressurize. For safety purposes, just leave it. This takes usually at least an hour. And then when it's down to 0, then you can remove the pressure regulator and you can carefully remove the lid. It's hot, so watch out for steam. Grab your jar lifter, and you're going to want to put your jars on a folded towel on the counter. It will help insulate it so that they won't break from temperature changes of like a countertop. And then you're going to leave them there for 24 hours and you're not going to touch them. During this time, you're going to possibly hear the lids seal. They make a nice little tink sound, and I actually heard 2 of them seal while I was lifting them out, and the third one sealed just like a minute or 2 later. They should all be sealed within the 24 hours, and if you notice that there isn't one sealed in the 24 hours that it's sitting on your towel, then put it in the fridge and you should eat it in the next day or 2. So that's how you pressure can chuck roast. It is really simple, especially with this raw pack method. I'll show you in a future video the hot pack method, but I really like to use this method because it's so fast, so easy. So what happens if you don't pack the meat in and you just put it in lightly? Well, take a look at this jar from last week. This is safe, good, delicious pressure can chuck roast, but you'll see the fat level, the liquid level shows it's about half full, and the meat is about maybe 2/3 of the jar. You want to get the most for your money and for your effort. Thanks for visiting Life Homemade. Please leave any questions in the comments. Feel free to send me a direct message in Instagram as well, and consider subscribing. I'd love to see you around.